Hello there, I'm Sconchulus, and this is TEPPEN Deck Teck, where I present to you decks that are fun, strong, or interesting. Today we are playing the new limited ranked format, where old strategies are revived and given new life. The tale of Amaterasu no Kuni heralds none other than the Spider Queen's return, the build-around for the very first Dark Invitation deck. Of course, Spider Queen was also designed around the release of the next old set, Battle of Amaterasu no Kuni, which we do not have, but thankfully, limited formats also provide major buffs to old cards, and for our purpose, that gives us a whole new approach to this deck. First things first is the Spider Queen. This iconic first boss is as classic as it gets. Big 3/8 stats that float into another unit from grave is already solid tempo, but if you have two usable spirits in grave, using Dark Invitation on the Spider Queen is immense momentum. Just be sure to actually count the graveyard. If you only have one spirit in grave, don't use your hero art, because then the death effect can summon nothing, and Spider Queen needs to always feel bad for your opponent to kill. And with the newly buffed Clay Drummer at nearly the same stats as Spider Queen, it will feel bad. A 4 MP 3/7 is a solid play from hand already, plus its effect to get extra value from our other spirits, and the fact that getting any spirit or just 4 MP unit at all in graveyard is the most important thing for our deck means you always want to draw this card early. Clay Drummer and Juju Dorama are the cards you want to mulligan for every game, and Juju perfectly embodies the beauty of the graveyard deck. 4 MP for a 2/7 and the effect on death to inflict -6 HP to a random enemy unit. This is one of the very best cards at taking more than its MP value down with it. And combined with 10 cards that can summon her, often multiple times, things are going to die. And now, bizarrely, we have another card identical to Spider Queen, and way better. Nanbu Harumasa is 4 MP for barely lower stats and the exact same effect as Spider Queen, and for 3 MP less, Dark Invitation on Nanbu feels way stronger. This is the card that makes the deck good. And that's because Harumasa being buffed to 4 MP, very importantly, makes it kinda broken with our other buffed card, Pandemonium. This is the deck's win condition, just by providing badonkers value. It's a little bit random, but at the very best, Pandemonium is a board wipe that blocks every lane with follow-up. The strongest and easiest use for Pandemonium is near the end of the game, when your board gets cleared naturally and you have multiple in hand to choke out any remaining momentum in the match. But early game, this card is also kinda broken in action phase. 2 MP to summon Juju Dorma, even at 1 HP, is solid, so always look for opportunities to get ahead early with this card so that you can win the game later. Especially when you draw it along with our very best cheese, Battle Chip Ruiner Felicia. If I intend to keep complaining about Hero Sword, I can't possibly ignore the Black Hero Sword for a moment longer. This card is way better than I thought, and since no one expects it, there are constant opportunities to sneak in game-winning damage. And with that as our all-encompassing game plan, we have a few more cards for consistency. Uncontrollable Ambition will send 1 random unit from hand to the graveyard to deal damage equal to the unit's MP to 1 random enemy unit. Famously, this is used with high MP units for way over curve damage, and we can do that. But it's also most important for graveyard setup and to unbrick the hand. 2 things we really benefit from, even at the cost of less damage on average. Gate is the last main guy we play. He looks so lost, but he's mostly just here to make Pandemonium even stronger. And for a good non-committal turn 1, that helps us brick less also. And moving on to some legendaries, Trauma Chief Brian Irons is one of the very important equalizers we play to give us a fighting chance against the faster, higher power decks. But of course, he only counters human decks, and there's a few of those. But also in every matchup, he is a viable discard for our most important legendary card, Underworld Lord Jeddah. For 6 MP, Jeddah will discard any high-cost unit in hand, and if he does, he'll explore for Black's most powerful equalizer, Salvation of Souls, which also provides a massive buff, so it's even better than any board wipe. Last of all, Jeddah can repeatedly heal life, and in a long game, any life can be game-winning, which means both of Jeddah's effects are equally important at different times. And the last few tech cards, Mad Massacre ensures our spirits go to the graveyard, Step Down lets us stay alive, but both of those you should probably cut for more destroys to beat Shadow Blade, which Madcap Chase is the best destroy, even letting us discard a bounced unit and doubling as a surprise game ender from the 2 damage. Love this card. Begin the Purge is the most necessary card here to beat a lot of decks. And last of all, Heated Debate. It's a pun. The card was buffed to inflict minus 10 MP, and already without being discounted, that is completely worth it a lot of the time. But if you can get this down to 1 MP and summon anything, then you'll be feeling like Wendy Oldbag! Here's the deck QR for you, and with all that said, let's get into it. Game 1, we are up against a fellow innovator of new black decks, our opponent playing the now buffed Ashura Senku, which could mean absolutely any black deck at all, but at least for us, it does mean a mono black deck, which we really want to stretch the length of the game out. So we will start things off with Underworld Lord Jeddah discarding our Spider Queen, which was dead in the hand, and our opponent will start things off with Abigail. We can defeat that using a Clay Drummer, and our opponent will bring it back much stronger with Guildenstern. We will play down a Narubu Masa in the top lane, so that it can bring back the Clay Drummer when it dies, and we will activate Unforeseen Ambition to send another spirit to the graveyard, which will turn on our hero art for Nanbu. Our opponent will bring back their Abigail that we destroyed. Maybe we shouldn't have done that. But we also get another spirit to the board, and our opponent will use their hero art in a very strange way, I guess, to try and deal with Jeddah, but we're gonna blank whatever their hero art was. We will play down another Clay Drummer, and our opponent will go for a 3 MP mech thing, probably hoping for the Decimate, but because it died on the attack, they do not get the Destroy. Our opponent will use a Destroy to deal with our top lane Clay Drummer, and we will get in one more hit before they are able to block with Juju Dharma, and we will go for our Mad Massacre to get much more damage on Juju than we would have, but our opponent responds with Step Down to get a lot of health back that we didn't need to give them. We will play our own Juju Dharma into the middle lane so that it doesn't die trading immediately. Our opponent, we will go for another Step Down, and our opponent will attempt to revive a unit, which gives us the opportunity for Mad Massacre to clear their board. Of course, they do have Abigail, but we have an easy answer to keep us as far ahead of the game as possible, and this far ahead, we will try to choke out the momentum, going for Pandemonium. And at this moment, we should definitely go for the Felicia, but I kind of had the feeling they would block the top lane. We still really should have gone for it, though. We will play a gate in the top lane after our opponent takes a bunch of damage and loses all of their board. They will play down their Devil Princess, and we will deal with that using as quickly as possible, wasting no time for a 50-50. We want Devil Out off the board, and once our opponent removes our board, we will play down a Spider Queen, bringing back a Devil Out of our own, which will trade out, which will defeat theirs, surviving on the board, making whatever they go for next a waste of MP. Of course, they do defeat it, but we are able to just go for another Spider Queen, bringing back Juju Dharma, and our opponent will go for Heated Debate, which we will get a little greedy and respond with our own. We could have saved that for something better like this guy, but we are so far ahead that anything we do is still going to win us the game. Our opponent goes for their hero art, which will get them one more attack cycle. We are able to basically clear their board, and we take game 1. Game 2, I always love taking on the old top dogs, so let's see how your everyday Devil Breaker does against your average Dark Invitation. You shouldn't write this deck off at all though, it's still very high power, so we need every clutch destroy we can get. Our opponent starts off with Roberto Mira, and we could go for our Madcap immediately, but we're heavily rewarded by playing Clay Drummer first and drawing into Trauma Chief Brian Irons. Our opponent attempts to go for a shield, and we are able to then go for our destroy, but our opponent strangely goes for a Hakai, which spawns 1G Young for us. Our opponent will then go for their Chun-Li into Devil Breaker, and we have our hero art ready to eat their Devil Breaker with Juju Dorma. Our opponent goes for a disarm and surrender. I'm gonna assume they were bricked, but let's try that again. This time we're up against Shield Spire, which should mean something new for green, and that will hopefully mean our opponent doesn't just quit when their combo gets broken. And it's gonna get broken this time, because we drew our strongest equalizer of all, Jetta Doma. We'll start things off with Gate to bait our opponent to all in on Muscular into Grand Meow and Male, which we can easily defeat with our Jetta, going up to a 6-13. Our opponent is able to keep their Male around for a second longer until we play Juju Dorma. And with our hero art ready, we clear their Muscular, and I guess this is just what green players are going to do this season. Game 3. We have our hardest matchup, and for week 1, what seems like the best deck in the room. So if I'm gonna make a deck profile, I really gotta show how to try and fight this deck at least. So we drew about as well as we can hope to, drawing a single Spirit's all we can ask for, and because our opponent started off with Ran, we will make completely sure they do not get the chance to Chairperson and remove our Juju. We need it in the graveyard, so we will immediately Mad Massacre, and our opponent could have bounced it, kind of. They go for their 0 to put on a ton of pressure, and at this point the only thing that will keep us alive is begin the Purge to destroy Sparta, 0, and their I forget her name. But now we can charge back up, and we will go for a step down to heal back 6 life. Our opponent's still up 11 on us, and it's gonna be an uphill battle no matter where we're coming from, but we can at least charge back to 10 MP, and we'll both be there. We can go for another step down, and that will give us the chance to play down our non-boo and go for Uncontrollable Ambition, making sure that our Spider Queen goes for their Takeda and destroys it. They play down another Takeda Shingen, and we have 2 more Uncontrollable Ambition, which we will use before they have any opportunity to level their Takeda. This forces them to waste a ton of MP on effectively nothing, and now we can use our hero art to really put the screws on them. Of course, they can use their Shiranui combo, their Malzeno Shiranui combo to, hopefully they didn't banish it, but even if they did, we have so many spirits in grave at this point that we should be set up for the remainder of the game. Of course, our opponent has a ton of Malzenos, which should be able to continually put on board pressure. They will go for their gain GP action to level and activate their both Malzenos. We will play down another Juju Dorma from the graveyard, I think, and we will summon our Spider Queen, which at this point should be the momentum we need to really carry this game to the end. Our opponent does have a Heroic Strike, of course, and rather than Juju, they want the death effect to be blocked by their Chairperson, but they really should have just tried to remove Juju Dorma, realistically. We will play down another non-boo and use our hero art to once again put the screws on our opponent, and they have no choice but to go for a fairly weak hero art on April May, and they are unable to get her effect to, they do actually get her up to level 4/4, and they will go for a second hero art trying to monopolize on the one big static unit they have, but of course we have our win condition ready. They can ram into it all they want, but we can go for Mad Massacre to clear their single dangerous unit. They can play down the strongest unit in Thunder Edge, but we are easily able to defeat it on the spot using our hero art on Juju Dorma, and at this point, the game is over. And now that I've shown how to play the deck, I feel like I really ought to include a warning. It's not the most hospitable meta to this type of deck, even though I really like it. I mean, this is kind of a pre-conclusion to what we're gonna say in a minute, but we'll start things off with Clay Drummer, and our opponent will unreactively destroy it with Chairperson and Tyran. That was exactly what we wanted, though, so we could try to avoid the same thing happening to Juju Dorma, leaving us way behind at the start of the game. Thankfully, we can eventually deal with their Ran, which is the card that made this such a problem, and we are able to fill up our board and go for our hero art to defeat their Takeda Shingen. We are back in the game, but the deck we're against is so volatile that they are able to go for their hero art, and because of Ran, it goes up to 10 MP and kills us on the spot.
Can I sleep now? Please.
Here we are again, and I wish this deck were better. None of the cards or interactions are weak, and the game plan is solid with a very powerful win condition. It's not even the excess of banish cards that really do us in. The problem is that the meta is just too fast for this deck. A couple more destroys will definitely give you a fighting chance when you can snipe a hero art from Thunder Edge or kill a jury before the life gain chain resolves. But you're still kinda betting on big plays catching you up to decks that are just stronger. Still, I could not resist playing Spider Queen while it was back around. And if you had the same feeling, then here's a pretty good way to do it. Maybe you can even improve it further. I do have a budget version for you, of course, that instead of Ambition is using the Coordination Destroyer to send cards, and this 2MP guy to help you unbrick still. As for the next video, I've got some Ashura Senku nonsense that I think keeps up a lot better with the meta, so keep an eye out for that. Let me know down below if there's anything else in the limited format that you'd like me to take a look at, and thank you guys for watching. Please like the video if you liked the video, subscribe if you subscribed. Once again, I'm Scontulus, and I'll see you in the next one.